Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. I would like to welcome everyone for taking the time to join us for our power session today, Fbar, Understanding Treasury's Role and How Technology Can Help. I am honored and humbled to have as my featured speaker on this session, John Paquette, Head of Customer Service at TIS. TIS is a key partner of the 2021 Treasury and Finance Virtual Forum, and they share my strong commitment to serving the Treasury and finance professions. And John is one of my favorite webinar speaking partners. With that, I'll go over and hand the floor over to John. John, the floor is yours. Take it away, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much, Ernie. And thanks for everybody for joining our session today entitled Understanding Treasury's Role and How Technology Can Help in Fbar Reporting. As Ernie mentioned, I'm John Paquette. I'm Head of Customer Success for TIS's US market. Just a little bit about my background. I joined TIS back in 2019, but prior to that, all my experience was really on the Treasury practitioner side. So I have 15 years experience working directly in Treasury and covering topics like Fbar reporting, right? So excited today to take you through the Fbar topic from both the practitioner and technology provider side. What I am not, obviously, is a tax attorney, so I'm not qualified to give you advice on specific Fbar filing requirements, but I can walk you through a high-level history of those requirements and some strategies that organizations can use to make the Fbar filing process much, much easier. So with that, we'll jump right into the content. So Fbar is actually not a new topic. It's been around since 1972 with the introduction of the Bank Secrecy Act. And really the point of this act was to put in place some regulations to combat money laundering and other financial crimes, and thereby required the reporting of accounts and transactions on all your foreign accounts. Really, subsequent to the initiation of this act, there were no really meaningful changes in Fbar legislature for the next, call it almost 30 years, except for some minor regulations in the 1980s that really just made it more, clear on how to enforce certain Fbar filing penalties. But you really don't see your next major advancement in Fbar filing regulations until 2001, after the events of 9/11, the US Patriot Act was enacted. And really, there was a big crackdown on money laundering, financial crimes, and, the ability to fund terrorist activities through foreign accounts. These were some of the most meaningful shifts in Fbar filing requirements. In addition, Fbar was placed under the enforcement of FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, really was then tasked for enforcing compliance with Fbar reporting. Now, it was after this period in time that you really got the modern sort of, requirements that most Treasury organizations have seen today in terms of Fbar filing. So you have the requirement to file for all foreign accounts that have an account balance in excess of 10,000 at any point during the course of the year, as well as for those accounts report the maximum account value balance that you held at any point during the course of the year. You have to report all details of those accounts, including the account signers as well, right? The individuals who are listed as signatories on those foreign accounts. And really, when these requirements were enacted in 2001, this was new Treasury, a new territory for Treasury and really everybody within the organization. So from that standpoint, there was a bit of push and pull. Where does this responsibility really lie? Is it with tax? Is it with legal? Is it with Treasury? But ultimately, I'd say predominantly for most organizations, it landed with the Treasury Department. They were the ones with the access to the bank account records, also the data needed to pull the Fbar filing requirements based on account balance and that maximum account value balance. So it made logical sense to have this sit with Treasury. The problem was that this data wasn't particularly easy to pull, right? So most organizations in that day were using spreadsheets for bank account management. They didn't really have an electronic bank statement solution in place. So what you had was a lot of Treasury organizations going through really manual records, both from a bank account administration standpoint and bank statement standpoint, trying to identify and report the specific requirements for Fbar filing. This was, kind of a big effort for most Treasury organizations, but at least really set in play the need for some sort of technology to begin to introduce itself in these processes, right? Which was a good thing for Treasury organizations. And then you fast forward again to 2008, and this is really where you see the next meaningful change in Fbar filing requirements, the financial crisis, right? There was a lot of fallout from the financial crisis, but one of the biggest consequences was just an increase in scrutiny around how banks and investment management companies operated. How did they move money around? Where were those funds held, right? So you had some additional kind of really meaningful regulations put into place for Treasury organizations around Fbar, updated definitions around the classification of a foreign account, really to be more clear around custodial accounts and investment accounts, as well as a revised definition of signature or authority. And really, with this change, that definition applied to individuals who had the authority to control the disposition of assets in those foreign accounts. not just those account signatories anymore. So you start to see some of those requirements. I hear most Treasury departments refer to this as the virtual signatory type requirements come into play for Fbar reporting, which complicated things even more, right? Even more data for organizations to pull. And by and large, just a lot of confusion around who did and did not have requirements to file Fbar reports. And that really is what characterized the next period that we see here, 2010 to 2016, and maybe even into 2018. There was a lot of confusion around who did and did not have responsibility to file Fbar reports. And this mainly centered around the so-called money transmitters, right? Those individuals with access to actually approve payments, as well as the individuals with signature authority on accounts, but no controlling interest in those accounts. So during this period of time, there's a series of clarifications issued by the IRS and FinCEN. There's a series of extensions to filing deadlines, one of which you can see is the example I have down here in the bottom right-hand corner, which occurred as recently as 2019, until those really, those clarifications around those individuals with signature authority, but no controlling interest in the foreign accounts was actually made. So a lot of confusion during this period, but there were two meaningful pieces of clarification issued. Probably the one that's most meaningful for most Treasury departments is what's listed here as number 4, the interim guidance memorandum around the filing requirements for money transmitters. Subsequently, this has made its way into the actual Fbar filing requirements. So if you have interest in this topic, you can check out the FinCEN website around Fbar reporting and see the specific requirements around money transmitters. There's a lot of them, obviously, so more than we could probably go through during the course of this session here today, but definitely something that most Treasury organizations should be aware of. And so I haven't even begun to gone through a portion of the intricacies of Fbar filing requirements or the history of all the revisions, but you can already tell that this is an extremely complex topic, right? We could definitely benefit from some suggested best practices for filing. So I've always thought, and I think this is the way most organizations manage Fbar filing, is that Treasury should take the lead. Although this is a cross-departmental effort, where there's information gathering between Treasury, tax, legal, compliance, a lot of different departments, right? And even multiple different systems, ERPs, TMSs, legal databases, and for most organizations, still spreadsheets. Treasury is the owner of really the key data elements here, the bank account management data, and the transactional information to be able to pick out which accounts have Fbar filing requirements and how to populate those data elements on the Fbar filing forms. So it's a good process for Treasury to take the lead on and kind of guide the organization through. Secondly, be aware of your requirements. As you can see, there are a lot of requirements and they differ quite a bit from organization to organization. You need to understand the specific accounts, whether they be deposit accounts or security accounts. They're under scope for Fbar filing purposes, as well as the parties within your organizations, the corporates, the individuals, the virtual signatories, if those come into scope for your company as well, that must file an Fbar report. Reason being is that the penalties are steep, right? As much as 50% of the balance on the violation date or the statutory maximum, and they do enforce them. So even if you go out there and you just Google Fbar penalties and read some of the recent news around this, you'll find quite a bit of articles about the IRS and FinCEN enforcing penalties for organizations and individuals who failed to file or filed incorrectly. So. And then the third here is use technology to your advantage. As I mentioned back in 2001, we really set in place a kind of a trend here to use technology in Fbar reporting, and for good reason. It's complicated. There's a lot of data involved, and the data is typically pretty complex to get at as well. And since that time, Fbar technology has come a very, very long way, and this no longer really needs to be a truly painful process for organizations. The days of sifting through pages and pages and pages of bank statements are over. This can be done a lot easier these days with some of the technology advancements. Some in particular that most organizations should keep in mind: a robust bank account management solution, right? This is key to storing all the elements that you have for Fbar reporting, putting in place data governance to make sure those data elements are correct when filing time comes. And also, most modern bank account management tools can actually synchronize these key data elements between multiple different systems through APIs, right? So everything's in sync across the different systems you're using to complete your Fbar filing when the time comes. So things like your foreign bank account records themselves, the account numbers, the financial institutions they're held at, the account types, right? The legal entities, the tax IDs, legal entities names, and in particular the signatory records, which most organizations these days, it seems like, are filing Fbar on behalf of their signatories. So both the current account signatories, as well as any changes that might have occurred mid-year, And even the individuals that fall into those categories of virtual signatories that have some sort of FBAR filing requirement can all be pulled very easily from a good bank account management tool. And the second is a platform for electronic bank statement collection and analytics, really something that's able to pull all of your bank statements across all of your banking partners, not just your main cash management banks, right? Those exotic banking partners as well, because that's where your foreign bank accounts are held, right? And be able to, calculate out those balances, those FBAR relevant account balances, those that surpass the 10K threshold during the course of the year, as well as that, all too difficult to pull data element in terms of the maximum account value balance during the course of the year. That these days can be done with a couple of clicks of the button if you have the right tool in place, right? So this combination of integrating a really robust bank account management solution with an electronic bank statement analytics solution can be, it can go miles for simplifying this FBAR process and making this process very painless when the time comes to file. So that's everything I had for today. I hope this was informative and at least gave you a good background of where the FBAR filing regulations came from, how they've changed over the years, and some strategies that you can use to make this process simpler for yourself. If you're interested in learning more about FBAR, I definitely recommend checking out our latest blog post. There's a link up to it on the slide here. But otherwise, thanks everybody for joining today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much, John, for your insightful content. I want to encourage everyone to visit TIS at their booth in our virtual exhibit hall. They have a lot more information on FBAR and a lot more things about harmonizing payments across the globe. Thank you very much, everyone, as always, for your valuable time. Make the rest of your day great.